So I'm Shannon Hawley. I am the new chair of the National Carnival Committee in St. Kitts. And I became the chair for a second time around. I was the chair a few years back, and I became the chair a second time around. The only female individual to ever chair Carnival on two occasions, well, to ever chair Carnival in St. Kitts period. So I consider that quite an honor. But the second time around, so this is my second time around chairing National Carnival here in St. Kitts. I need this.
Okay, when did Carnival start in St. Kitts?
Well, Carnival started back in 1957, but the Carnival was nationalized in 1971. So you would see that we're celebrating this year our 49th anniversary, albeit it may be on a very small scale due to the pandemic. But in 2021, God willing, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary of National Carnival.
Wow. So it sounds, I've spoken to a couple of people from different islands and they're all going hard for 2021. So it's going to be a good year from Carnival next year.
Yeah, I think St. Kitts Carnival is uniquely placed. You know, we are the final carnival if you look at the global carnival calendar, because every year you see another carnival pop up in some part of the world, which is great. But we are uniquely placed as we are the final or the last and the first carnival on that carnival calendar, because our carnival stretches from December to January. So it puts us in a very unique position.
Definitely. So in the starting point, who were the founders of bringing it into St. Kitts, and what were their reasons for that? Are you aware of that?
Well, in the 50s, back in 1957, the carnival evolved from the traditional Christmas sports. So back in the 40s and 50s, you would have had traditional Christmas sports or folklore. So you would have had things like the actors, mucka jumbi, which you see in other islands, which you see fading out now. So you would have seen actors, you've seen mucka jumbis, mummies, masquerades, the bull, etc. All of these traditional Christmas sports prior to 1957. Those Christmas sports faded out somewhat and evolved into Carnival. And Carnival was brought in was introduced by an individual called Basil Henderson. And when he introduced it, it is said that he went to Antigua, he saw what was going on throughout the region, Trinidad, etc., and he wanted to introduce that to St. Kitts and Nevis. So he introduced that back in 1957, but in 1971, the Carnival as we know it today was nationalized. And what has happened since then, it is really a template that set the template for what we have today. So we still have the pageants, we still have the calypso shows, we still have the road parades, as we say, the troops here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We still have the Christmas sports part of it, the folkloric element of it. So it essentially has evolved to what we see Carnival as it is today in St. Kitts and Nevis. Not hearing you, sorry.
You mentioned before that it is not around, well, it's definitely not around Emancipation Day, but there are still links to enslavement.
Definitely. A lot of what we see from the Christmas sports aspect of it, the bull, for instance, is all dated back to slavery. Some of the folkloric groups, such as the masquerades or the clowns, they still have a mix between African and European, heritage, but everything still dates back to slavery. In Nevis, our sister island, of course, the Culturama celebrations are focused around emancipation on that long August weekend. We celebrate emancipation here the first Monday in August. So in Nevis, the Culturama festivities surround, the emancipation long weekend. But in St. Kitts, our celebrations, even though they are heavily based on elements from back in slavery, they are more evolved from the Christmas sports. Not hearing you. Not hearing you, sorry.
Sorry. It's me. I put it on mute while you're talking because if there's any movement over here, my picture comes up when you're talking. So the changes over the years, because from starting in the 50s, moving on to the 70s, do you find that it has become more commercial? How is it kind of, is it more ingrained within the government systems? Because obviously you're a minister, and it seems, we don't have that over here. Anybody that is anything.
I'm not a minister.
Oh, you're not? Sorry.
No.
Sorry, the Carnival chair then.
Yeah, I'm the Carnival chair. So it falls under the Ministry of Culture. Mm-hmm. So the Honorable Jonel Powell is the minister, and he's responsible for, amongst other things, he is the Minister of Culture. So Carnival falls under the Ministry of Culture. Right. And I am the chair of the festival. Okay. Or festivities, which are all government controlled. It all falls under the government's control, and it's all heavily subsidized, very heavily subsidized by government as well. Because whereas you see in many of the other islands, and even in the UK, where Carnival is a heavy money making, right now it's very commercial. In St. Kitts, we have not seen the growth of Carnival to date. I don't know if it's because it's the time of year. We've kept it relatively small. We've focused a lot on the traditional elements of it, but it has not been as commercialized as we have seen in the other islands. Now, what we would love, as I said before, we want to create that right mix of, preserving the traditional aspects, because what we've seen is a lot of individuals coming in to the island specifically for Carnival or throughout the region traveling for carnivals. They really focus on the fêtes and masks. They don't really focus on the traditional aspects of Carnival. They don't even know where Carnival was formed. They don't know how it was formed. They don't know what it was, where it is, where it's going. So we have to find the right balance, because a lot of the young people here as well, event promoters, etc., want to be involved, and they are involved in terms of having fêtes. The troops, as we call it here, the mass bands, are now very commercialized in terms of attracting, social media influencers from throughout the region. The beads, the bikinis, the ensuring the DJs, bands, performers from throughout the region attend our carnivals. So that is what we're seeing a lot of now. And I think it is very important for us to capture that audience while still maintaining the tradition. So what we've said is that we would, our carnival spreads over maybe a 1 month period. And what we said, we would have a 2-week period where we focus on the traditional aspects. So we don't allow that to die. We have elements in our carnival to date, such as the folklore caravan, we have folklore avenue. We have these elements that focus on the traditional folkloric groups aspect of it. And then, of course, we still want to ensure that we accommodate individuals who focus on fêtes, who may fly in for a week and still want to capture, that carnival fête mass aspect of it. So the key to the success of the St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival is actually finding that right balance. And that is definitely something that we continue to work on.
So moving forward, I think you've really said it anyway, to be honest, what you're looking at and how you're kind of spreading out. What do you see for the next 5 years of Nevis and St. Kitts Carnival?
Well, what we're seeing now, which is very interesting, and it warms my heart, is that we're seeing a rise of a lot more of the folkloric groups in young people. So we're seeing the junior masquerades, we're seeing the junior clowns, we're seeing the junior bull, the junior actors, and therefore, which is very important, because previously all of these elements had died out. So what we intend to do is we intend to heavily encourage, in whatever way we can, assist these young people in maintaining and keeping the fire going as it relates to the folklore aspect of it. So what we want to see is, we want to see the Muckajumbies, the revival of the Muckajumbies. We want to see the revival of the steel band. We're not seeing that as of today. So what we're going to be doing is heavily investing, and especially this year, which is a very peculiar year, we are going to be heavily investing in the development of the traditional aspects. We're going to be heavily investing in calypso workshops for juniors, steel band workshops, etc., where we can not only focus on these elements during the carnival period, but focus on them throughout the year. So working closely with the Ministry of Culture and the Department of Culture, where we can say, okay, well, what is missing in the schools? How do we go into the schools? How do we teach the young people how to make costumes, for instance, instead of just handing them a costume? Because when we do that, there are no emotions attached to it. So we need to start in the schools to continue to promote the cultural heritage aspect of Carnival in general, and then we can see it grow, that part of it growing, because a lot of it, what we see in St. Kitts, we don't see in the other islands. We see some of the stuff, we see Muckajumbies, etc., but we don't see it heavily promoted in other islands. So we see that as a way of capturing. It may not be the mass and the fete goer, but it may be someone who may be more interested in the historic aspect of Carnival. So we want to be able to capture those individuals and still capture the individuals who may want to fly in for a week and enjoy the mass and the fete experience of what we have to offer. So that is where we see National Carnival moving towards in the next 5 years.
That's brilliant. No, thank you very much for taking some time out for me today. And it's been really important to have a conversation with you. And I'm hearing the same kind of thing from each one of the islands that are saying that they are moving more into the traditional side, and there is an importance on that history element and the young people knowing what we're doing it for. So that's really interesting. It seems to be
sure. And even now, Tara, let's look at the pandemic. The pandemic has caused us to take a step back, and it has caused us to reintroduce, reflect, rely on that traditional aspect, because we may not be able to have a full-fledged National Carnival this year, but we definitely have the tradition that we can still promote. We can still have a local carnival. We can still have all of the folkloric groups performing, and still have that element that has sustained all of these years and still will maintain itself over the next generations to come, which is very important. Definitely. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Tara. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm really pleased I got hold of you.
Anytime, just let me know.
All right. Well, hopefully the next time I'll be over there.
In person, definitely. Next time we'll invite you. 2021, God willing, knock on wood. Yes. The world as it is today won't be. And we'll be able to invite you over to our National Carnival for the 50th anniversary, and for you to experience some of the really, really, really unique aspects of what we have to offer.
That would be lovely. And Christmas over there with you guys sounds amazing.
Christmas, New Year's, Carnival. It's a full package that it cannot be duplicated.
No. Well, my close friend Julie Nesbitt, she was saying about Boxing Day is a big carnival, big
celebration.
I normally sit down with eating my leftover Christmas dinner with family members that haven't come on Christmas Day, and it's all cold and dreary.
From midnight Christmas night, everyone hits the streets. It's an all-day celebration. St. Kitts is known for having the sweetest Juve celebrations in the world. So it is definitely something that you need to put on your bucket list.
Definitely.
And definitely something that I will commit to inviting you to in 2021.
I hold you to that.
All right, take care.
You too. Thank you.